So now, speaking of the bank, the biggest in America is J.P. Morgan. You know what question's coming about this, right? J.P. Morgan. Jamie Dimon has been floated often as a possible Treasury Secretary or, president. They're actually saying that he could run as president. He's doubling down again today. I guess he said Bitcoin is a fraud. His name, he has, he's connected. He can speak to people, and obviously he feels this is a competition. Do you think the likes of, I'll ask Roger first because he's the closest, and I could just hand the microphone to you. Do you think he could have some role in making things difficult for American companies involved with Bitcoin?
I think Jamie Dimon doesn't understand Bitcoin and what it's about. And I'm more than happy, Jamie, I'll be your private tutor and I'll teach you all about everything. I'll donate my time to do that. And once you understand what this is all about, you will want to get involved in a big, big way, because you'll understand that this is one of the most important inventions in the entire history of humankind, right up there on par with how important it was with the invention of electricity or the internet itself. That's how important the invention of Bitcoin was and the distributed ledger technologies that it's enabled since then. So Jamie, I'll be your private tutor.
That's a good offer. He should take him up on that. Now I'm going to pass it to Charles, because Charles, Jamie Dimon, J.P. Morgan, all these banks, Goldman Sachs were involved in trying to develop their own blockchain. Do you think the process of his bank going through that he really understood how much of a threat blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are to their business model?
First with respect to asking a banker about whether they like Bitcoin or not, that's kind of like asking a king, do you like democracy? I mean, if you think about it. These first $13 billion in fines or something like that under his reign, the guy's a tapeworm.
Now time to Max's impression.
So, but no, I mean, I honestly, it's just so thoroughly frustrating and insulting when people who know very little about what we do watch an up-and-coming technology and have the audacity to call us all criminals. We're not the criminals here. The whole damn reason this ecosystem exists is because they're the criminals. And, it doesn't really matter at this point what he thinks. The genie's out of the bottle. Somebody in this room or somebody at this conference or somebody around the world is going to solve the problem of decentralized lending and value-stable currencies and decentralized exchange. And within 5 to 10 years, banks will become less and less relevant, just like landline telephones are becoming less and less relevant. And we're going to wake up one day and we're going to be in charge of our own money. And Jamie Dimon, in retirement, can watch the world as it is, not the world as he would like it to be.
I'll say I think he said that to get attention, first of all. But I'll go to the other point of your question was, what can he do to stop this? Or maybe not him in particular, but the type of hierarchy that he might represent in a lot of people's minds. Yes, they can actually cause a lot of pain across the board. So it's something that we have to just be realistic about. As we go forward, I think we need to keep that in mind and make sure that we self-regulate on a number of fronts, and we try to do things very much in the open and just try to be really good examples of good human beings who are doing the right thing from the start, rather than have, in retrospect, people come down on us for doing things that, they can point to us and say, aha, I told you all along these guys are a bunch of criminals. Like, we need to show that we're the exact opposite.
Yeah, so I would say on this topic, when you see someone like Jamie Dimon calling Bitcoin a fraud, or you see China coming down hard on Bitcoin, these are very good signs for the industry. This means that they see this technology as an actual real threat. Do you think they would waste their time saying these things if they didn't actually think it was a threat to their own businesses and, their own control over, monetary policy and the world as a whole? I don't think they would. I think the fact that it's getting more attention and that they're starting to speak up about these things is a natural part of the pushback that comes with a disruptive technology like this. You wouldn't see in this, but it's almost like watching, the U.S. Post Office back when the internet and email was first starting to come out, saying, "Oh, email is a fraud. This is completely ridiculous. It doesn't have a stamp. You don't send it in the mail. it gets there instantly. This cannot possibly be anything but a fraud. That's what I feel like when I see Jamie Dimon calling Bitcoin a fraud. And just like email started to proliferate and obviously became a much more useful tool than the post office, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and decentralized assets, token sales, all these various things that the industry is begetting, they're going to be much more useful than any of the other legacy systems. And that's why you have this kind of pushback.
Change is hard. It's hard for humans no matter who you are or where you are, right? I have to go with the humanistic answer here. And but we can do something about it as a community, like each one of us in this room, to make change easier for our neighbors, our friends, our bankers. I mean, we all have relationships. It's literally educating people. Education is the greatest, I guess, power battle weapon against fear. Educate our friends, our neighbors, our family members, the people that we work with, and that's the best we can do together.
A couple of weeks ago, Jamie Dimon criticized Bitcoin. Could you encapsulate briefly what his criticism was and then how you would rebut it? Because I'm very interested in the topic.
I believe his specific criticism was, and I may paraphrase, that Bitcoin is a fraud that has no financial basis and is not backed by anything. That was the criticism by Jamie Dimon, head of JP Morgan Chase, who actually got fined $2 billion for mortgage fraud, which JP Morgan Chase paid by committing more mortgage fraud. I don't know if you've seen that news. That was particularly fascinating. And they did this all on the dollar, which is backed by, oh, right. So,
it's funny because it's true.
I think my most honest reaction is Jamie doth protest too much, methinks. And it's interesting how the head of the largest investment bank in the world finds time in his very, very busy day to speak about a nothing, an irrelevant little technology that has no impact on the world. It's almost disconcerting that he would pay so much attention. By the way, as he was saying that, JP Morgan traders were buying Bitcoin. So I will give you a prediction which I've made before. The world's banks have never faced competition from the internet. They need to learn really quickly that when the internet comes from your industry, it doesn't end well. Look at all the other industries that faced intense competition from the internet. Well, the internet is now coming for banking. And the result of that will be that banks and their executives will not only lose their industry or their power in the industry, but they will go through the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. It starts with denial. Bitcoin can't possibly work. It will surely crash any second now. 9 years later, that's not working so well. Anger. Terrorists, drug dealers, pornographers, make it stop. That's not working, because the governments figure out you can't make it stop. Bargaining. We like blockchain, but not Bitcoin. Doesn't work so well, and so on and so forth. The internet is coming for banking, and like every industry before it, the industry heads think, we will weather this storm. After all, we've been doing this for centuries. Good luck. I hope you keep that attitude until the very end.